Ah! Okay, my audio's not working. Hold on a second. Yeah, well, that was cool. I did the thing, Stephanie. Yeah. Welcome to Network Roundtable. Stephanie, I'm going to show you now. And yeah, you're muted. I tried to use a new way of playing the music, and didn't work.
But that's okay. We can dance. We can pretend the music's happening, Dennis. Here we go.
We can. And, you know, I will work it out as soon as the show starts taking some steam here. And, yeah, we'll get some music before the show's over. I promise. I really do. I promise.
We have faith in you, Dennis.
But I do want to talk about these two fun little things. We have created the superhero and the sidekick badges. So if you are either a superhero or a sidekick from a past show, let us know, and we would love to get you your own badge that you can use however you want. It's a cool little PNG. You can see through the S squared thing. So yeah, there you go. We just want to love on you guys. You come and you give us so much, and yeah, we just love you. So, that being said, Stephanie, let's go ahead and announce this week's superhero. Plus one superhero is Meagan, and you're muted.
Wow. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Ooh, hi. I was waiting for someone to unmute me from above, but it turned out I had to do it myself.
So, Meagan, here's how we introduce our sidekicks and superheroes. We don't.
Oh, all right.
And what we do instead is we let you tell us who your sidekick is and why you selected her, and let you love all over her and introduce her.
Okay.
And then we're going to let her do the same back to you and introduce you back. So, who is this week's sidekick? Who did you select?
I selected my good friend Toni McClellan, who is a coach, and she and I started off together as freelance writers, and we were both moms of many small children at the time, and she's been my buddy and colleague, and at times partner and other things throughout the year. So I'm very excited to have Toni here today. She's awesome. Hi, Toni.
Hey, it's great to be here, you guys. Thanks for having me.
Here, let's give you one of these, Toni.
I'm wearing emerald green underpants like Robin today on a sidekick. I'm not going to show you guys or anything, but...
All right. So, Toni and her emerald green underpants is going to tell us why she likes being the sidekick to this week's superhero, and all about why Meagan is so amazing.
Wow. Meagan really is so amazing. I mean, that's no exaggeration. She is a one-woman media empire. She's a writer, a prolific writer. She's made great success as a blogger. She's now really rocking it as a podcaster. And I just feel like she always has positive can-do energy that lifts people up and encourages them, but she's never like forceful or pushy on people. She's just like really the real deal. And people resonate with that. People gravitate towards that with good reason.
Well, gosh, you guys really know how to start a show on a feel-good note. Thank you, Toni.
Sure.
You know, that just happened one week. Quite honestly, how it happened was I wasn't prepared, which is usually how everything happens on this show. And so I was stuck. I knew nothing about the guests that week, or hardly anything, and so I just let them take it away. And it was so amazing that we've never done it any other way since. So, and now people can go back through the annals and figure out which guests I didn't know anything about.
Yes, you have just admitted something, Dennis, I'm not sure you meant to do, but that's okay.
Okay. So, Stephanie, what are we going to hit as our first subject this week?
Well, since we're talking about heart, and since we're supposed to inspiration, which would be some of the quotes that we got.
Some of the quotes. All right. So let's just a second. I am going to change my sound. Hold on. This may or may not work. I should have checked it in the green room. In the green room. Yes. Do things in the green room. It's usually best. If you don't, do them live. Okay. Am I still sounding okay?
You sound fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you guys echoing back to yourselves?
I don't
We
think
sound
so.
fine.
Okay, good deal. Well, now you'll be able to hear music. That's what I just did. So, for our quotes this week, let me pull up the 3 quotes. And Stephanie, while I'm grabbing these, do you want to say something about how we've started to get these quotes, where we're getting these from?
Yeah, well, and I'm glad you gave me the little nudge there. I completely forgot to talk about the survey. What we're doing now is we're actually asking what you think so that you can help us guide the discussion. And so while you're filling out the survey, telling us what you think about that week's subject, you can also give us a quote. And what we're doing is we're taking all of the information that you give us in the survey, and you'll see that coming up later. We'll show you kind of how everybody feels about heart, this week's subject. But we also, I think this week got, how many quotes did we get this week, Dennis? 3? 4? I don't remember.
No, we got more than 3, but I take the first 3 quotes that come in chronological order. So I'm not going to try and pick the best quotes, because I'm not a great quote picker. So basically, these are the first 3 quotes that came in this week. But we had about 7 or 8 quotes this week that were given. And I am trying to figure out a way to get all the quotes out there, but I'm not going to make them into a quote picture because that takes a bit of time. Unless, anyway, of course, if we get so many sponsors that everyone wants to sponsor a quote, then maybe we'll do that.
Yeah. But thank you very much to everybody who took the time to fill out the survey and provide us with their quotes. So without further ado, what have we got?
Here we go. Or not.
That's okay.
That was my favorite.
Yep.
All right. So the first quote is, of course, our Friends Plus Me quote this week. And it came from the wonderful Mark Seydel, who provided us with such an amazing opportunity last week. Let's do this. We got 3 quotes. So let's have you, Megan, read this one. Stephanie, I'm going to have you read the one that's purple and green, and the one that's a whole bunch of colors with a mountain scene. That's going to be all about you, Tony.
Okay.
You know, one issue that I'm having is that my screen is cutting off the sides.
If you just blue box the network roundtable, it'll show full screen for you.
Well, no, I didn't even know that. Look at I learn something new every day.
Yes, here we are. That's what this show is all about, right? It's education.
Okay, so also our heads are covering part of it, but that's okay. So I believe it says, I can't read or something. Let my soul smile through my heart, and my heart smile through my eyes, that I may scatter rich smiles in sad hearts. Is that what the font's a little funky? Sad hearts. And I can't read the name of the quote author because it's kind of off at the bottom.
really long.
Yes.
Paramahansa Yoga.
Paramahansa, I can't see the rest because it's cut off.
Yoga Nuranda or something like that. I don't know.
A wise person said this.
A very wise person, and I'm going with from the Orient. There you go. All right. Thanks, Mark. This one, our Gombach quote, came from Kristen Drysdale.
Right, and this one says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he."
Yes.
And that's, what is that? Proverbs 23:7? Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then our Interline Imagine If quote of the week came from Cheryl.
Sometimes the heart sees what is invisible to the eye. H. Jackson Brown, Jr.
All right. And I'm back on screen. So any thoughts on any of those three quotes before we move on from the quote section?
Well, I kind of like the way that they were talking about the fact that the heart has to be connected, right, to other, either through the eyes or through your brain, or, you know, that it's not working on its own, I think, to me, which is something that when we get to the education part, I got a couple of questions for you guys, but I think it's interesting that in a lot of cases we see the heart as maybe the center of emotion and kind of but I'm not so sure that that's true, and maybe that's what these quotes are pointing out to us.
My favorite was the last one because I think that, and I actually just wrote about that this week, that sometimes in business we tend to get very focused on the details of how to do things and how to, you know, see results and metrics and analytics, but intuition matters too, as much as planning and as much as strategy. So, and sometimes it knows things that the eye does not see.
Good deal. All right. So, do we have something for our next section?
Well, I think we were talking about doing a little bit of stress reduction, what we can do to stay calm when things don't go well. And I personally can use this because it has been a long week for me, and things have...
Yeah.
So, Tony,
Yes.
what would you suggest for someone like me?
Freezing up. Just saying.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I missed half of what you said.
Yeah, I think the problem is that, see, Gina's actually in the middle of a hurricane right now, so that's why she couldn't join us from the Caribbean. And so I think Gina's bad internet connection has hit your house.
Maybe it's just that I've been cursed by the internet gods.
That could be too.
Yeah.
Can't help you with that one.
Okay. So, from this week's sidekick, the wonderful Tony McClellan, we are going to hear some advice on how to deal with stress. What do you got for us, Tony?
Wow, it's a lot. But actually, stress relief, a lot of it's stuff you've probably heard a lot over and over, and you're going to hear it again. But for me, if the stress that I'm experiencing is due to my own work, where I'm kind of stuck inside my own head and I'm worrying about stuff, I find that doing something physical releases that, because you start, getting in these loops in your head. Well, I've got to get this thing done, I've got to get that thing done, and why didn't that person call me? And you're kind of arguing with yourself in your own head, or you're writing, like, I'm a writer, and sometimes I'll be kind of chewing on something inside mentally, just kind of like, how do I get that first paragraph right? And so I'll find, take off my shoes, go walk barefoot in the grass, or get on my bike and go for a bike ride, or clean something, just something where it's like physical. I have a friend who's a local photographer here. I live northwest of Chicago. Her name's Nancy Merkling. She's a photographer, and she does this great talk on creativity, and she talks about one-burner activities being great for creativity, because it's like sweeping the floor is a one-burner activity, or taking a walk. because it just quiets the rest of your mind, and it kind of lets things kind of loosen up, where you're in this stress mode. But if you go for a walk, or you pull some weeds, or you just get your feet in the grass, or you blow bubbles or something like that, it just kind of pulls you out of your own head. I think if the stress is coming from other people, like if you're an introvert, I'm really big on honoring your introvert side. A lot of people say, well, I can't be a public speaker, I'm an introvert, or I can't do sales, I'm an introvert. The truth is you can, but you need to know how to re-energize yourself, how to take that downtime, solo downtime, quiet, and just not interact with anybody for a while, if that's at all possible. I mean, even if it means like going into a bathroom stall and doing some deep breathing. Well, maybe you don't want to do deep breathing in a bathroom stall. Going somewhere private, I've done deep breathing in a Walmart parking lot, right? It's like, nobody wants to go to Walmart, right? It's like, well, maybe some people do, I don't know, sorry, Walmart. Because usually it's like you're running around and you've just got a bunch of stuff to get done, and so I'll just pause in the parking lot and just, sit there and pause and breathe for a few minutes. And it seems like such a little thing, like, oh, I can do that anytime. Like I had mentioned gratitude journaling once, and somebody said, oh, I think about gratitude all the time. And I'm like, but there's something about making it its own activity, expressing gratitude in writing, or sitting and actually taking the time. I'm just going to sit here and breathe. I'm not going to think about whether or not I'm meditating properly, or I'm doing it right, or I'm doing it wrong, or my brain is a spaz. I'm just going to sit here and breathe. That's all I'm going to do. So those are just a couple of things, and plenty of sleep. I mean, I know that seems like a no-brainer again, but I can handle everything better on a good night's sleep. So
yeah, that's great.
I'm talking on and on, so I'm sorry. I'm just
no.
This show's all about you guys. So go talk on and on.
Yeah.
And you're right that a lot of that is stuff that everybody's heard. Mm-hmm. But in fact, maybe what happens is we try to do it all, like you said. Well, I'm supposed to be focusing on this, and I'm not doing it right, and you miss the point, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And it's only when you can say, I'm only going to do this one thing, I'm going to focus on this one thing right now, and be present, mm-hmm. and then I can move on, maybe that it actually works for you.
Yeah, because it doesn't have to be like some set program, like 30 days to meditation, or I'm going to do this perfectly, or sometimes you just go and lay on your bed and breathe and try not to fall asleep if you have other stuff to do. I'm not speaking from experience at all here. Or sometimes you sit in your car and you breathe, or you put on some music that instantly calms you and you just kind of chill out. I mean, it's just, or you don't pick up your phone and look at Facebook. You just take that time and just kind of be. We're not very good at that nowadays, I think. It's like we can't wait in line, we can't do anything without looking at a phone or something, but it's like, meanwhile, you're filling your brain with all this information, which is great. I'm all about information and learning and everything, but sometimes it's like, turn it all off, just get really quiet, and follow your breath. And that can just be a really powerful practice, and there's no doing it right or wrong, there's no system to follow, it's however it works for you.
Meagan, you mentioned earlier, and going back to your post this week, do you think that the fact that we don't take the time to do that we don't have this kind of moment of stillness, is also partly responsible for us not recognizing the intuition when it comes to us?
Oh, well, yeah, because we're so, I think to Tony's point, we're so focused on external information and data and what's coming at us all the time. And this is something I see happening a lot with people who are starting businesses or people who are running blogs, and it's like always trying to find that new tool that's going to do something for them or help them figure something out, and everyone's always looking for like the next tool or the next strategy or the next way of taking data and analyzing it, and that's all great. There are a lot of great tools out there, but it just can keep us very busy doing things, but it doesn't always allow us to stop and just listen to what we want to be doing and what actually matters to us and what is the point of what we're here for. What are we doing, whether we're having a business or in our family life or whatever it is, what is the point? What are we doing this for? can get very lost, I think, in all that data and all that noise and stimulation, like Tony was describing. I love the idea of a one burner activity. I never thought of it that way, but that really does help you kind of figure out what kind of activities, the ones that are just one burners. I like that a lot.
I think of those like when you dream. It's there's some one theory of dreaming is that it's your mental housekeeping, and I think of one burner activities like conscious, mental housekeeping while you're conscious. Stuff kind of floats away while you work on that, and then the important stuff. Usually, that first sentence of your first paragraph comes to you. We've all heard that. It came to me in a shower, or I woke up in the middle of the night and I wrote down a lyric from a song, or while I was doing dishes, I got this idea. It's all that kind of thing because you're present.
Tony, I also really liked what you said about how it doesn't have to be part of a system, because I am classic at always feeling like there has to be some program involved. Like, I'll think to myself, I want to go for a bike ride, but I can't just say I'm going to have a bike ride today and it's just going to be a nice bike ride. I'm thinking, hey, this is going to be the first day of a 6-week biking program that I'm going to start, and I'm going to bike Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. This is how my brain goes. And it's really hard sometimes to just do the thing that's in front of you and just let that be okay. Whether or not you continue and bike the next day or put your bike down and away and don't touch it again for a month is kind of pointless, or it's irrelevant. It's not something you need to worry about when you're in the activity of riding your bike today.
Right. I've got a newsletter in my drafts right now called The Space Between All and Nothing, because I find so many people come to me, and it's, I'm trying to, work on this project, but then if I skip one day, then I lose 3 weeks because I skipped a day, and exercise and diet seem to be analogies everybody can relate to. It's like I tried eating clean, but then I had a Snickers bar, and so I ate cake for 3 weeks. It's like this all or nothing,
Right, yes.
It's the same thing with the systems and stuff, It's like if I don't do the system perfectly, if I don't meditate perfectly, like I've got to be an ace meditator like the first day, then forget it. Then it's all gone. Instead of just, what if I just sat in the parking lot and breathed? Like every time before I go into a store, I'm going to turn off the ignition, and I'm just going to sit there and breathe for, I'm not going to give you a time limit. I'm just going to breathe for a short while, and then I'm going to go into the store. Yeah. How might that change how you feel for the rest of your day if you make that just a really consistent, simple practice, and allow yourself. This is another thing too with all these, with the idea of getting stuff done. I feel like, I say a lot of times, done is better than perfect. Often done is good enough. I regularly release newsletters with typos in them and everything, but it's just that idea of feeling like you have to adhere to something perfectly is something that's so common with so many people, and I love helping people just kind of, it feels like a knot. It's like, I've got to, your hands are clenched, and it's like, I've got to get it this way, and it's like, I help people just kind of loosen up and enjoy the ride instead of white-knuckling through it all. Like, I've got to do it perfectly. It's something that I see very often in my work.
Do you think some of that is also because the people don't actually know what it is that they want? It's kind of like keeping up with the Joneses, right? Like, okay, well now everybody does yoga. I say this because I went through this phase myself. Okay, and I had all these friends. I have a friend who's a yoga instructor, and I have someone who has yoga. I went to the class, and every time I left, I was worse than when I started because I spent the entire class like, I'm doing it wrong. Oh my God, the instructor's looking at me and he thinks I'm an idiot. Oh, this is terrible. And I would walk out feeling worse than when I went, and I was like, I can't anymore. I'm sorry. And they didn't see it. For them, they had gotten past that. But for me, I was still in this phase where it wasn't that I wanted to do yoga. I was in this phase where I wanted to be with my friends. Mm-hmm. And I decided yoga was the way.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that that's common, where because I see it in business a lot, like, everybody's on Facebook, but I hate Facebook. I don't want to be on Facebook, but I have to be on Facebook, and it's like, don't be on Facebook. If you don't enjoy it, don't be on Facebook.
Yeah.
But it's really hard for people to make that choice, and I think that's another thing, and that I'm sure, I know, Meagan, you're newer to coaching, but I'm sure in your work too so far is kind of really helping people find that center of, why am I in business? What is it that I really want to do in this business, and how do I align my work with me, with my lifestyle, with my preferences, with my values, with my goals, instead of watching what everybody else is doing. And I mean, we're primates. We're very social. We all, even on social media, even online, we're still social. We watch what everybody else is doing, and it's like, I don't have an introductory video when people sign up for my newsletter. Oh my God, I'm doing it all wrong,
Yeah.
Whereas I know people who are like killing it as coaches who don't even have websites.
Yep.
So it's getting to that center of what it is that you really love. And if it's
I was just talking to a client yesterday who was talking about looking around and trying to change her business model based on things that she sees going on around her. But I mean, you have to decide if that's the game you want to play. I mean, you can't. It's the keep your eyes on your own paper thing, and your own paper being what matters to you and what is the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning. It's not going to be the same thing that motivates the person who's running their business a certain way. And it doesn't all have to be done now either. When I look around and I see the cool things that people are doing, I always want to jump on that cool thing, that cool new thing. Sometimes genuinely want to do it, but sometimes those things just go on the bigger dream list, and they're not going to happen today or tomorrow or in a month or maybe in a year, maybe not for 3 years, and maybe by the time you get to it, the technology will be better and easier, or you'll have figured out some other way to fit it in with what you're doing instead of forcing it all the time. I think that that's something too. When I'm forcing things to happen that aren't supposed to happen yet, that's when I tend to really run into a lot of brick walls. And I see people doing that. Well, I mean, Stephanie, you and I talk about your business all the time, so I know you run into a lot of, those should I be doing this, or this? And should I run my business more like other people do theirs?
Right.
Go ahead.
So much information out there, and it's so dense, and it's so and I feel like, and there's so many potential avenues for learning, and I feel like I took a mastermind class on just internet marketing with a coach, and it was fantastic. And she was like, "Look, don't you dare even think you're going to implement all of this tomorrow. You're going to roll this stuff out over weeks and months." And I really took that advice to heart, because it was like, I'm still implementing the things that I learned in May. And I'm totally cool with that. I think 2 years ago me would have felt I would have had to have the whole, a whole system in place, and I'm not even using all of her recommendations either, because this doesn't suit me. This makes me tired. It makes me want to go lay down. I'm not doing that. So it's like I'm picking and choosing what suits me, and I'm rolling it out slowly, so that I can keep my business running and not burn myself out and serve my clients and work on existing. So it's like, the immediacy of the internet doesn't tend to go hand in hand with the reality of life and growing a business.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think too that this all ties in sort of with something that I think totally relates to the idea of doing business with heart, is defining what success means for you. And it doesn't always mean more. And that's something, sometimes what's enough? And this really can be very hard to define, but if you have a great year and you're suddenly earning money with your business idea, it's easy to suddenly think, okay, well, I'll be happy when I have more success, more clients, more customers, more business, more money. At some point, though, there's a trade-off for more. There's always a trade-off for more, and so you have to know what is enough, and how do you define that success for yourself, which could be very different from anybody else.
There's also a trade-off with I'll be happy when. Yeah.
Yeah. That when does not exist. When is now? When is now?
And it's like they say money magnifies everything about you, and so it's like I'll be happy when I'm a millionaire, but if you're miserable as you set out to be a millionaire and you don't fix being miserable, you'll be a miserable millionaire.
You'll be a million times as miserable.
Yes. Pretty much. Cooler toys, but whatever.
Well, and that's it's very interesting that you bring that up, because I think that's one of the traps that we can fall into as a owner, is when we start looking at all these cool new shiny objects and we think we have to have the latest we have to have a website update, or we need to add a podcast, or we need to put our intro video on the homepage, and we forget what it is that we're actually in business to do, right? We're actually there to help people.
Right.
And so while that intro video might attract some new clients, maybe the time would be better spent asking the clients, how can I serve you better?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we forget that because it's too easy, and it's true with, you know, the internet and everything happening so fast. It's too easy to see all this other stuff that people are doing and say, oh, well, that must be the but it's hard to say, no, I'm going to do it my way. And I know this. And Megan knows this because she's heard me say it a million times. but I think it is, and I think that's where, to me, the word for today is so important as a business owner, is you really have to listen sometimes to what your heart's telling you.
Yep.
That these people that you've been helping for a while, maybe that's not actually who you're meant to help, you know, or it's just a small segment of those people. And there's going to be people who are going to walk away and say, hey, you know what, that's not for me. But you can't because of the fact that it's what you've always done.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's really about connecting, right? And we can't all connect with everybody. That's just like I connect with Tony because I think because you had a Simpson. Oh no, you had. I think your nickname was Fragile.
Yes.
Or your email address, and it made me think of The Christmas Story, and so we connected, right? But there are with 30 other people on that list. I couldn't tell you their names now if I tried, right? Just it's nothing against them. It's not a personal insult. It doesn't mean I didn't like them. It's just for whatever reason the connection is different, and it's the same thing with your customers. People, you can't connect with everybody, and so you're going to connect differently. And more authentically, and when you really are very sure about who you are trying to reach and in what way, then it becomes a lot easier for those connections to happen.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Tara Gentile wrote in a newsletter a long while back. She's an internet marketing, brilliant internet marketing expert. She said, your unsubscribes are doing you a favor. People who unsubscribe from your list, who stop following, they're doing you a favor because they're never going to buy from you. They're not your ideal customer. Thank them.
Yeah.
Wish them well. And I was like, wow, because when I first started, it was like, you know, and I had my new newsletter, someone would unsubscribe, I'd be like, they don't like me.
I know that feeling, yes.
But now I'm like, okay, thank you. Thanks for the clarity. I wish you well. Because I know that the clearer I get, then people who join my list are there to stay because they know what I'm about. I know what I'm about.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, it's like that trade-off between quantity and quality, I guess. I had a similar sort of reverse conversation with my assistant when we were setting up the email capture forms on my new website, and she wanted to just put just the email box field because she's instead of a name in an email because she felt it's a lower barrier to entry. You'll get more people who will sign up if all they have to do is put in an email address. And I said, that's true, but I want their name. I want a first name. And to me, it's more important that the people I get on my list, the people that I'm interacting with, that I have a first name that I can refer to in my email, and that the fact that they had to take an extra 3 seconds to type, or I think it takes me 0.5 seconds to type my name, means that we already have a more quality connection than we would have if it was just, you know, the shortest path. I'd rather have fewer connections that I can connect with in a way that matters to me and really want to be there than a whole bunch and then have half of them be kind of iffy and I can't reach out to them in a personal way like I want to. So it's just sort of one little example of how that also kind of works in reverse. You know, the unsubscribe is a gift, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I think you're right in this notion that what we're all trying to say is how can we reach the people that we can help, you know, that are really going to be touched or motivated by what we have to say. But I don't know, I think maybe, and Megan, you and I talk about this all the time, but you know, maybe part of the problem is us, that we don't actually. So if somebody's out there and maybe they've already started their business and they've been doing it and they're saying to themselves, okay, well, I've got all these 5 million things I have to do, but they're not actually feeling passion or excitement about what they're doing, they maybe look at themselves and start asking the right questions so they can see, well, is it the fact that I'm just too busy with these activities, or am I really not doing something that's aligned with who I am? Where should they start?
Oh gosh, it's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I think sometimes just getting, and I know Tony will have plenty to say on this topic too, but I think sometimes just getting back to the basics. Why did you start what you were doing in the first place, and what are the common denominators? I think I mentioned that I just did a site redesign, and while I was trying to decide, because I do a lot of things, I know we all do a lot of things. We often entrepreneurs have a million ideas, and we want the world to know about every little thing that we can do because it's a potential, service that we can do for somebody else, or maybe we'll get a gig out of it, or we don't, we never want to limit ourselves. But I knew that I couldn't promote every single thing I've ever done on my website, and I didn't want to look scattered. So I sat down and wrote down all the different things that I do regularly and that I want to be doing more of, and tried to figure out what the common factors were. And what I realized for me is that helping through communicating that's what I do. I have different paths that I do it, and sometimes I help in a much more hands-on way, like I'm actually helping a client build a business, and sometimes I'm helping by entertaining or giving information. And Tony, I know sometimes you help people by making them laugh, and there's a lot of different ways to help people. But that was so instead of just saying I'm a writer, which is true, writing is part of what I do, but if all I did all day long was sit down and just crank out words, but I didn't have that, and I did that actually for a while. It was called freelance writing, and it was great. It was great for about 3 years, and Tony's laughing because we both went through the same growing pains, like, why am I writing this stupid story again? Oh, because an editor assigned it to me. Okay, and it worked for a while. It made me a living, and it was great. But I finally realized if I can't connect what I'm doing to what my purpose, which is helping people through communicating, if I'm not helping anybody, or if I can't see how I'm helping them, if I'm not close enough to it, then I'm not going to be happy, even if I'm using my skills of writing or whatever other skill I might have. So I don't know, Tony, you identify with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting because for me, when I created the first incarnation of my business, which was called Makeroo, which it's a great brand, but I wanted to brand under my name and be able to do more things under my name. One of the common threads was storytelling. I tell stories and words and pictures and podcasts and great interviews like this and everything, and speaking, engagements. I love telling stories, but now through coaching, it's evolved into so much more than that. For me, a lot of my work is, I do use stories to guide people, but it's more like I help people see their superpowers, their gifts. I help them remember how to love themselves. Because, and talk about heart in business, if you don't love yourself, that comes out in your work. If you don't treat yourself well in the way that you talk to yourself in your head, that's going to show up in your work. You're going to shuffle your feet when it comes time to sell. You're going to make decisions that are safer instead of a little bit more daring. You're going to keep yourself safe and protected. So now my work has become, it's like, I started out with storytelling and creativity, but now it's so much more like, really like reflecting back to people the beauty that I see in them, and inviting them to see that, own that themselves. And it takes time, and it's really powerful stuff. But then once people get that, it's theirs to keep for life.
I like that. Just a quick warning that in the next 5 minutes, my dog is going to completely freak out. So I will click the mute button on my nephew is going to walk in any moment. And I get rid of all of my kids. I have a house full of kids, and I unload all the kids, but it's the dog now. I really have no place to put her, and she's very unpredictable, and pretty soon she's going to flip out. So I'll mute when that happens. It doesn't last long.
Okay.
What have you got for us, Dennis?
I want to hit some comments. There's been some really great conversation from the audience, so I want to hit on some of that. Gail Harris says, such a relevant, true, and heartfelt conversation. Meagan, Francis, and Tony. Can't find last name, sorry. I did give you the last name so everybody can find Tony now. It's so helpful to get real about what's right for us regarding social media and everything else. We have to be true to ourselves, bottom line.
Yeah.
So that one, let's see here.
And we're not taught how to do that always.
No.
Right.
We're not, you know, we're taught to give and to serve, and in some cases to take on like a martyrdom kind of mentality, you know, oh, I've got to do, you know, or if you want it done right, you got to do it yourself because you let perfectionism run the show, so you're just going to redo the dishwasher that your husband did because it wasn't, you know, or your wife did, you know. So we're not taught, you know, that's a skill. Putting yourself first is a skill for a lot of people that we have to learn. It's a new muscle we have to develop.
True. Kim Boltman joined in. I think knowing what you're about is key. Excellent point. The more defined you are about that, the better you can serve others. Less stress, too.
Yeah.
And that's something, you know, that I've been really working on since I opened Gombach 9 months ago. It's been a constant, you know, honing. And ironically, Stephanie's been one of the main coaches to me, which is really interesting because Meagan is her coach. So here we are, a chain of coaching going on.
And Tony has coached me before, so you see we have a lot of coaches need coaches.
We're awash in coaches, yes.
We need to complete the loop here by having you coach somebody, Dennis.
Right. You need to find someone to coach, Dennis. That's your job.
Okay.
We're like the nesting dolls of coaches.
I love it.
Yeah, but you're right. Coaches do need coaches, and I think another thing with the heart thing is that a lot of times people feel that asking for help is a sign of weakness, and I see it as a sign of strength and clarity to say I can't do this alone. You know, and some of the greatest minds out there, they hire business consultants and they have personal assistants. Absolutely. And they have, you know, they have people, you know. Why shouldn't a solopreneur also have people? I do not want to do my own accounting. I never want to do my own accounting.
I recommend you don't do your own accounting.
Yeah. Yeah, you know me with numbers.
I've seen you try to figure out the tip at a restaurant.
Totally. It's like
it's not pretty.
Handler too. I mean, like, yeah, exactly. And I have a coach. I'm in coaching. You know, I love that support. I love that time just for me to just kind of, you know, she's my border collie. She keeps me.
Like it's so funny that you say that because and this is interesting. Maybe we could talk about it a little bit because a lot of people I don't think know what coaches do. Right? They may be unclear on what happens, but every time we talk, as soon as she makes one suggestion, I'm like, oh, I probably should have thought of that before because it's so clear. But what a coach can do for you is get out of your and listen to what you say and say, well, here's what it sounds like you need to do. And then when it comes from the outside, it seems so much more logical because you don't have all that noise going on in your head.
Right.
Well, and it's so much easier for me looking at before we talk, Stephanie will always send me this long list of all the crap in her head. Crap, I mean that the most loving.
In the most loving way, I know.
And it's this long laundry list of crazy, usually. I mean, it's just detail, 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 detail. And I can go through and, like, within 3 seconds, I can just be like, that's irrelevant, doesn't matter, da-da-da. You know, to you, it all matters equally because it's in your head, and you can't see around it until you have someone who's on the outside saying, that doesn't matter right now. You don't need to, this is not contingent on that, you know, this can wait, like, that will come. So it is, I mean, it's a lot of it is just, a lot of it is being able to help somebody figure out the thing that they already know if they could just quiet voices. And it's not about telling people what to do, and it's not therapy, you know? Although I think it does share some qualities with good therapy, but the kind that I like.
A great analogy I've heard is that therapists are more like the physician who mends your broken arm, and coaches are like the personal trainer who helps you learn how to use your broken arm again so you can play tennis.
Yeah. Well, you compared it to behavioral behavioral therapy, or what's the
cognitive behavioral therapy? Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
where
yeah.
it's teaching, and
mm-hmm.
it's very practical. So
the best definition I've been given of coaching is coaches help people get what they want. That's job one. I help my clients get what they want. And so I don't order them around or tell them what to do. It doesn't mean I don't give them blasts of clarity, or just say, look, I think you're what you're saying and what you're doing are different. Let's explore that. Are you open to exploring that? So it's like you can be clear with them, but bottom line is just in whatever arena, there are health coaches and there are relationship coaches and life coaches, business coaches. I'm a little of both. Because honestly, with business coaching, it always comes back to the life stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
You're nodding, Stephanie. Megan's nodding.
Yeah.
So because everything that we're experiencing is showing up in our work.
Right. And especially when you're small, if you're a solopreneur, or even if you have, a team of 3 or 4 people, the truth is you're, especially in that case, because you're taking such a risk, because you've aligned your way of making money with yourself, you're really on your own. I think the pressures that you have in your own life obviously impact your business, but this
I lost you.
On your personal life. Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I think you came back.
Okay. But because the two are so intermingled, everything can kind of seem bigger, and it's much easier to get blown out of proportion than it would be, for example, if you had a salary job.
Right. Well, and the fewer levels of separation there are between you and your business, the more which for most of us who are solo or small are very involved, the easier it is to obsess about the one unsubscribe, or to take things very personally like that, where you don't have that disconnection, or I don't want to use the word disconnection, but you don't have the ability as much to sort of look down on it with this detached way,
Right.
So
also with creatives too, it's a real common thing, because your creative work is literally, it's part of you, or it feels like part of you. And so someone rejecting your art or your writing or your music or your stand-up comedy feels a lot more personal than someone rejecting your sweet helmet cam that you invented,
Right.
Yeah. So GoPro, that's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
Anyway, potential sponsor, GoPro, Walmart.
Oh, there we go.
So I don't think Walmart no. I think we pretty much lost the opportunity to have them sponsor. Who wants to go shop at Walmart? So
She meant that as an invitation. Who wants to go shop at Walmart?
Well, we could do breathing. We could do mindfulness in the Walmart parking lot.
Yeah.
There you go. It'd be like a park-in. We can get everybody together.
And then go buy some watermelon or whatever. Yeah. 30 cents. I don't know.
Are you saying don't take it personal when someone walks away what you believe you have to offer? Walks away from, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is just for the record. This is this is for me. So I'm listening.
Well, I mean, it's easy to say don't take it personally. Easier said than done. I mean, I don't know, Tony. You have thoughts about this, because I feel like I need to wrap my brain around that. It's impossible when something is close to your heart and it's of your heart. It's impossible not to take it personally, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
Right.
Because you're so invested, and it means so much to you. I think that's actually a great sign, but it's not letting it derail you.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly my thought. It's like so much of what we do in business and in life that is an ongoing thing that sustains us. I like to think of it as a practice. And so, you can feel the little, aw, man, they unsubbed, which, it's like, for me, it's a lot less dramatic than it was when I was starting out. But I'm like, aw, man, bummer. But then my practice is to go, all right, perspective. Oh, yeah, Tara Tilly said, thank those people. I'm going to thank those people. Thank you. Thank you for your time, you know. Thank you for your attention. I wish you well. So it's a practice, but because I never want to tell somebody, shake it off, don't feel that, don't be bummed, because you never want to keep your feelings in like that, So, but you don't want to wallow in the bad feelings and let that derail you, as Meagan said. So
well, and I think there's a big, common advice that's given is to grow a thicker skin, and I tried to kind of work on that. I think the older I get, the less I want to have a thicker skin. I'm not interested in having a thicker skin.
Agreed.
Agreed. I like being a thin-skinned person. I think it keeps me very real, and it keeps me really connected to people, and I'm not going to fight that. But I've found that when I do keep a lot of, I guess, irons in the fire when I'm looking at different opportunities, a small failure feels a little less like a punch, and it feels a little more like, that didn't work out, but I've got this, and this, and I can look back at the successes I have had. The longer you grow that I guess, history of little successes, the more you can draw on that, and it sustains you, and it gives you that perspective. It's really hard to do that in the beginning when you have nothing, you don't have anything yet to show for your efforts. So some of it is, it's a practice, and it takes time.
Yeah,
for sure.
Is there a way, because this is something that I have a hard time too doing. I'm not good at this. Meagan knows this. But is there a way, for example, that we could set ourselves up bad news? Or when something doesn't go, our opportunity doesn't manifest itself the way that I wanted it to, could we write ourselves kind of a little script that says, what I'm going to do first is A, then I'm going to do B, then I'm going to do C.
Sure.
So that, because
I lost just
see it your next step.
That second half of it disappeared. It seems like every time you talk, Stephanie, you freeze up.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry guys.
Because I'm loving what you're having to say and what you're asking.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my question was, or my point was, I think people get stuck. Let's look at it this way. If you have an opportunity and it goes well, you don't really have a lot of time to sit on the emotion, because you've got to get the contract signed, and then you've got to start the work, and then you move on, right? You have other steps. But when the answer's no, you get stuck on the emotion because there's not a next step.
You don't have something else you have to immediately, when I first, I think I'm a big fan in the workaround and figuring out like your own personal workaround. And so when I first started freelancing, I did, a lot. The way it kind of works is you would send a pitch, so you'd send a query letter to a magazine editor with your idea, and they would say yay or nay, or most of the time they just ignore you. But so of course, in those days I didn't have a lot of work yet, so I was constantly checking my email, and I realized that living in my inbox in that way was not healthy, and I did stop doing that after a while. But what I would do is I'd open the email, and I would open it in a small pane, like about this big, and I'd scroll really slowly, because if they weren't going to accept my pitch, it would usually say I'm sorry in like the first line, and if it said I'm sorry, I would close the email and I wouldn't open it again for 24 hours. And usually by that time the sting had kind of worn off, and I could read why they weren't, and sometimes literally that's all they said, like sorry, no. I mean, in that case it wasn't too illuminating. But when I returned to it and it wasn't so fresh, and I had a little the gift of distance, then I found that I could take whatever it was that they were going to tell me, whether it was because they thought my idea stunk or because they just didn't have room for it in that issue. So I think you can come up with little workarounds like that. And I also think like maybe even setting, if you know that, say you have to look at statistics, or you have a product you're selling and it's not selling as well as you would like, I think that there's a really a lot of wisdom in setting a small, like a limited period of time that you're going to like think about that or look at that, and then not filling your time with that, because it's easy to just check your stats, check your stats, check your stats. Do I have any more likes? Do I have any more circles? Do I have any more, follows? And live in that. It completely doesn't allow you to get anything productive done.
Yeah, because sometimes those kind of behaviors become distractions that keep people in business small.
Yeah.
It keeps you from going forward, because if you're like involved in drama over not enough people loving you or not enough sales coming in, then that stops you from actively contacting people who might actually, like, looking up who's your 10 most engaged users, send them a personal email and say, look, I want to send you a special offering, let's talk. Right. You could spend your time doing that, or you could spend your time going, OMG, 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 what's happening, what's happening?
And another thing that I actually forgot to mention about the pitch thing, I came up with a rule for myself that for every rejection I got, I would send out 3 more pitches. So it was that taking a negative and exponentially, positifying it.
And those are practices, right?
Yes. It took a long time. You know, it's create the habit around it, which takes repetition and consistency. But after a while, then it's just like, oh, rejection, 3 more pitches, and then you start to see the success build, and that's where the rewards come in, and that's when you stop obsessing about the things that don't go well because you're so busy you can't. You have too much to do. So
right. Well, and you know that there's not for that emotion. Right? You can't just let it last forever because you've already set okay, my process for handling rejection, because that's how I see it, is I do this, I let myself feel it. But then I reach out to my 3 biggest clients that I haven't talked to in the last month, and I send them a message and I say, hey, how are you doing? Is there anything I can help you with today? Or positive, like Meagan said. So you really get out of that paralyzed step.
Yeah.
So Dennis?
Yes.
Cool. Yes. Oh my gosh. I didn't realize how close we were to already. We're almost done.
That went quick.
Believe it.
Ah.
We're really close to being done. We've still got to go over the stats from the questions.
We got a lot to do. Okay.
Hey, what's my superhero name?
Okay, let's see.
We got to see what the votes were.
Yeah. Oh, is that what we're doing now? Okay.
Is this one? No. Can't see them on the screen right here, so I got to put them big.
Oh, okay. So
here we go.
You took them away, Dennis.
That was it. Okay. So
Mega Mom.
For happiest hero. You got 2 for home hero, and there were 3 other ones which were things people had made up. But one of the ones that was made up was hashtag I'm going to have to get to know her first. Or a
that is bulky and not easy to say. Does not roll off the tongue.
I'm thinking
bad for Twitter.
Your hashtag happiest hero.
I guess so. Woohoo! I like that.
I like it. Yeah.
Yep.
So here's some of the other things that are interesting from our questionnaire. These are the synonyms, and it's all backwards. So Stephanie, can you read that? Because
You bet. So it looks like a lot of people identified with heart, but in a different way. So some people understanding, but then quite a few people, 3 people thought it meant feeling, and then there were also people who felt like it had this component of character or compassion. So that's pretty cool because all of those, but yeah, that's pretty cool that it spread out that way. So did we have the antonyms?
Pretty even break. Yeah, let's antonyms are here. So this one was a little more set, but still not a deciding vote here.
Right, which I find interesting that most people thought that heart was the opposite of indifference.
I like that.
More the caring.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can hate with your heart, but you can't really be apathetic, right? I mean,
right.
Or indifferent, which I suppose are 2 sort of very similar things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. So again, thanks to everyone. And look, Dennis even got us a new graph. How many people responded per day?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So,
very cool.
We had some good response starting early, and then in the last couple of days we had some stronger response. The more people we have filling these questionnaires out, the more value this information has to the show and to you guys in the audience. So love it if when we put out the graph picture early, if you guys would share it. That'd be awesome.
Yep.
And here's the last little
Oh,
graph.
yes. Yes.
Mhm.
This is what I was honestly hoping would happen, so I'm yay business. So glad everybody else agrees, or most everybody else agrees.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from the one person who didn't, so I
Well,
can convince them otherwise.
Well, I think the scale was basically I use
Oh,
it to I use
like, got it, yeah.
right.
So yeah,
So it wasn't that they said it's not important.
They're like, false, no.
that would be a 1. Instead of 1, it would be time to start trying to convince them.
Yes.
Yeah, we'd have to stage an intervention at that point.
Exactly.
Yes, we would. It would be time for a heart intervention.
Cool.
So let's I want to touch on something. I I was trying to get a word in a little while ago.
Sorry,
And
we're chatty.
I didn't make it, but I'm reading the book Made to Stick right now, and there's an analogy in the book that I've heard the analogy many times, or this psychological test, and I've heard the concept that he aligned it to, but I've never heard those two aligned with each other. So he's talking about the dangers of knowledge, and how once we know something, then it kind of gets in our way of grafting our message in such a way that other people can learn it as well. And the analogy that he used was the test of tappers and listeners, where people were asked to, they were given a list of 15 songs, and they were supposed to tap out the song with their finger, and the other person was supposed to guess what the song was.
Okay.
Can you guys guess that?
No, I'm bad at this.
Everybody's bad at this. Here's the thing about it. That was happy birthday, by the way. Here's the thing about it. In my head, I could hear that song as I was tapping, but none of you could.
Right.
So that knowledge makes me go, well, why aren't you getting this? Right?
Right.
And you're going, that doesn't relate to anything. What are you doing? You're driving me nuts. Stop tapping. Right? So I found that really interesting and really pointed out some of the things that you guys were talking about earlier, that we've got to be aware of how we're portraying our information to others, and aware of their ability to grasp or not grasp what we're putting out there.
I think sometimes, and I help businesses do content strategy, and a lot of times I think, and bloggers, and a lot of times, and I struggle with this myself, we assume that the people that we're helping know more than they know because we know it, because we've been so immersed in whatever we're immersed in. And Stephanie, you and I have talked about this. Like, don't assume they know anything. Think of where you were when you knew nothing. And repetition is okay, and being very obvious is okay, and people appreciate that when you really meet them on that level. So I think that really makes a lot of sense. Your context, Dennis, having the song in your head, and all those things helped shape, that knowledge for you, but nobody else had that. So.
Yeah. And so for everybody else, it didn't make any sense. So.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So next week, who do we have on?
Next week we are Jessica Duell and Nora Whalen of the Infusion Principle are going to be joining us. And we have big news. It's daylight savings time, but only for us. We've actually decided.
Okay, she's
2 hours, right, Dennis?
Yes. So we realized that come daylight savings time, Stephanie is going to have to do mommy taxi duty at the very time this show is running. and that wasn't going to work. So we're moving forward 2 hours. This is going to allow her not only to be there in the winter, but the extra hour also allows her to be in the green room, because if you've ever been a guest on this show before, you realize that the very second we go off air, she is getting off the camera. And so, yeah, we moved it forward 2 hours, so it'll be 12:42 next week. And then hopefully we'll be able to keep it there. We'll see.
Right, and that's 12:42 Mountain, right? So it's 11:42 Pacific.
1:42 Central, 2:42 Eastern, and for Elena and some of these people that watch us from Europe, we're going to actually make them have to stay up until 2 in the morning. So, all right. So here's how we close down the show each week. Stephanie is going to take a moment and give her closing thoughts and anything that she wants to shout out and promote. That's her moment. And then Megan, we're going to let you do the same thing. Then Tony, it'll be up to you, and I'm going to take the last spot and close out the show. So Stephanie, closing thoughts and pimping.
Why didn't have that when you have a panel full of women here? Come on. So first off, I want to thank Megan and Tony so much for joining us today. And I really think that this notion of trying to and to try to understand what the heart of your business is the conclusion we all came to. We kind of talked about ways to do it and what can happen if you don't. But ultimately, to me, that's the thing that think about what the heart of your business is and make sure you're being true to that with everything you do. What do you think, Megan?
Aren't you going to pimp yourself?
Oh, sorry. Well, that's true. And if anybody wants to see how things happen when you get past the need for perfection and you just launch things when they're not fully ready, feel free to go to my website, which is finance-ability.com. We are still beta testing, but if any of you would like to give me your feedback, and I'll call Megan after.
Moment right then, it's like she really doesn't want your feedback is why she froze it.
I do want your feedback so I can buy myself a better connection. That's why I want your feedback.
I want you to get a better connection too. I just want to say again, when I changed to Xfinity from CenturyLink, I saved myself $40 a month, and I got 16 times faster upload speeds.
Sponsor.
Yeah. And I am paying for this service, but I will pimp the heck out of Xfinity because they made my H.O.As better. There you go.
Okay.
There you go. Cool. My turn?
Your turn.
I just want everyone to check out Financeability because I'm really so proud of Stephanie. It's been a long road. But she's put together something really amazing that's going to help a lot of people. So there's that. If you go to, on my little thingy here, meganfrancis.com/Happy Tribe, I've set up a little page especially for the Happy Tribe, and I've got a special offer on there for you, but you have to scroll a little bit to get to it. I'm not making it easy. Maybe 3 scrolls. And you can check out my site. I actually just relaunched it, and I'm promoting my coaching and content strategy services, which I think content strategy is just a fancy way of saying I help people and businesses and bloggers tell their story in a way that makes sense and reaches people, and I think that really ties in with heart, because if you have a business and it's close to your heart but you don't know how to express that through what you put out there, the audience isn't going to connect with you in the same way. So I help people, business owners, connect with their audiences via the content that they put out. To you, Tony.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys, for having me. This has been really a great time. So I just wanted to say that, first of all. It was a really great conversation, and I appreciate it. And as far as heart in business, for me, again, a lot of it comes back to self-care, belief in yourself, getting to the center of why you decided to go into business. Because if you're going to be miserable and dragging around, you might as well go get a job that you hate instead of running a business that doesn't sustain you and light you up. So, I really do think it is all about heart. It's all about, there's that Maya Angelou quote, people won't remember whether you were right and they won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Yes.
And having heart in your business will do that for your clients and customers. So, and then as far as offerings go and everything, you can find me at TonyMcClellan.com. It's somewhere on my screen dealio here. / coaching. You can look up my coaching services there. I work with solopreneurs, I work with creatives, and I work with people who are feeling stuck or like they're ready to enter a new phase in their lives. So get in touch with me. And I offer free one-time free one-hour sessions. They're really powerful coaching sessions for people who are thinking about working with a coach and would like to get to know me better. So you can find me there. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you. And let me see here. Here we go. So thank you so much for joining us this week. What I want to touch on again is next week we've got Jess and Nora on. Monday, we're going to be doing the invitational trailer video. Love it that you guys come out to that. And here's the thing that I want to promote. I have a new show. I don't know the time yet, but next week, Into Line is running our first Imagine If H.O.A. And we have solidified that Jim Kelly, the ESPN voice of golf, is going to be our first guest. And not only that, let me take this off. This is just too exciting. You got to see my face. Not only that, Jim Kelly is going to be my floating co-host.
That's awesome.
I'm going to be hosting an HOA with a guy that works for ESPN. Yeah. I'm not at all excited. So
We couldn't tell.
No.
No. And he's a really nice guy. I went to lunch with him today. So we don't have the time solidified. Keep watching for notifications on my page. Circle Into Line here on Google Plus, and you'll get notifications that way. Yeah, we're going to be talking with well-known people from all around the world about what the charities are that they love. Something we don't usually get to know very much about various celebrities. That's going to be the entire show, is talking to different people you probably know about what cause is important to them and why it's important to them. So,
Very cool.
That's great.
all right. Well, thank you so much. We will see you guys all next week. Not at 242 Mountain, but at 1242 Mountain. We'll be talking intent with Jess and Nora.